If you can make a blob, you can sculpt almost anything. How do I know this? Because Squishmallow has already done it. This company has taken a big squishy blob and turned it into almost anything you can imagine. A duck, a hamburger, a pickle, the entire cast of Harry Potter. Maleficent, a plague doctor, and if Squishmallow can do it, so can you. In fact, if you want to make a paper mache sculpture of any character, I recommend doing a quick internet search to see if Squishmallow has done it first. Take a look at how that character exists in Squishmallow form and start from there. With that in mind, let me show you how you can make this paper mache blob that you can turn into almost anything.
Of course, there's more than one way to make a blob, but one of the easiest ways is to start with a paper lunch bag. This one measures about 13 centimeters or 5 inches by about 27 centimeters or 10.5 inches. In addition, I'm going to cut a circle out of cardboard. This one has a diameter of about 13 centimeters or 5 inches. This paper bag is looking a little too crisp and not at all smooth and blobby, so I'm going to crunch and uncrunch it a few times. This makes it look and feel a little more organic. I use a whack ton of hot glue on the circle and stick down the bag, and I'm using my hand on the inside to make sure that I stick the bag right up to the edge of the circle. This circle will become the nice flat base for my sculpture. Once the glue is cooled, I stuff the bag with whatever clean garbage I've got around. This is some tissue paper packing material, but plastic bags would work, or you could even shove a balloon in there if you wanna. Now I'm gathering the top of my bag into the center and taping it shut with some masking tape. While I've got the thick masking tape out, I'm using it to smooth over all the creases I don't like. I just think of it as covering the ugly bits with a big masking tape bandage. Finally, I'm applying about 3 good layers of paper mache to give my blob a nice hard shell. I've got a really in-depth video about how I apply my paper mache. It goes into the best glue recipe and the best paper to use. I'll leave a link to that in the description. Not to toot my own horn, but I think it's a pretty kick-ass video, and I think you should check it out even if you already know how to paper mache. I packed it with as many tips and tricks as I could fit in there. So we're gonna do 3 good coats of paper mache, and then we'll set it aside overnight to dry.
All right, now that I've got my basic blob made, it's just a matter of turning this into my character by adding its features.
Now, this is truly just a blank canvas for whatever you can imagine and whatever materials you can scrounge together that you think might work. Paper egg cartons are really useful for this project. You can cut out one section and it makes a great snout, or 2 smaller sections can be some funny bugged out eyes. If you don't have a paper egg carton, a little disposable cup can also be a snout. Or if that doesn't work for you and maybe you want something more pointy, cut a pie piece out of a circle of carton, roll it up into a beak or a really pointy nose. Corrugated cardboard is great for ears. Don't be afraid to scrunch it up to shape it a little bit. And if you don't like that idea for ears, cut a plastic lid in half. That would also work. Heck, this little lid would also make a great duckbill. You could get some sticks to make horns or antlers, and drinking straws or pipe cleaners are great for antennae. For my project, I want to turn this blob into a jackalope, which, if you don't know, is a cryptid creature that is kind of half rabbit, half antelope or deer. So I need to make some bunny ears and some antlers. First, I'm holding my blob up to my box and using a Sharpie to sketch out the ear. Off screen, I'm looking at some reference images because even if you think you know what something looks like, it's always good to have a picture to look at. After cutting out the first ear, I flip it over and trace it so that I have 2 identical mirror image ears. These cardboard ears are looking a little flat, so I cut a long dart into each ear. And then I can bring one side over the other and glue it down so my ears are a little more shapely. I'll trim off this little overhang bit and I've got a decent looking pair of cardboard ears. But I'm going to use some aluminum kitchen foil to flesh these out a little bit. Scrunch the foil into some long, tapered sausages and hot glue them along the sides of the ear to match the fleshy bits in my reference images. After using hot glue to hold the foil in place, I use my 2-inch masking tape to blend it into the cardboard. And I'll do that again on the second ear. So I'm back with another panel of cereal box here, and I'm gonna sketch out my antlers and cut out 2 mirrored images. The aluminum foil is going to come in clutch again here to bulk out the antlers, and later the foil's bendiness property is going to help me bend the antlers into a more natural curve. After I've made a large sausage for the main curve of the antler, I make a few little cocktail weenies to make the points. I stick these all to my cardboard template with hot glue. Now I'm going in with this thinner masking tape and I'm wrapping the whole thing up like a mummy. And my jackalope recipe calls for 2 antlers, so I repeat that again to make a mirror image copy. Real antlers curve forward, and since we've bulked these out with aluminum foil, they're quite easy to bend into a nice natural curve. I'm just having a look at the antlers here, and I've decided that the points are a little too crowded, so I'm just going to do a bit of surgery to remove one of the points to give everything else a bit more breathing room. Now that already looks so much better. Let's do the other one. So these are ready for paper mache, so we'll give the antlers 2 layers. The ears will get a couple of coats as well, and we'll set these aside to dry. While those are drying, let's figure out some eyeballs. You can get some styrofoam balls and cut them in half. They make pretty good eyes, but I prefer to make my eyes out of air dry clay. This is Das brand paper clay. To make eyes, I literally just roll out a ball of clay and then flatten it into a dome shape with my fingers. We'll set these aside to dry, but while I've got the clay out, I'm also going to make a couple of big bunny teeth. Those will work. The next day, we've got my dry antlers, dry bunny ears, dry eyeballs, dry teeth, and now we get to put all these pieces together. I grabbed a couple toilet paper rolls because I'm gonna use these to give my blob some arms. First, I'm gonna cut my toilet paper roll at an angle, and then I'm gonna go around the tube and make some short vertical cuts. I'm gonna bend these back and I'll use these as glue tabs in a minute. Next, I'm gonna cut the other end into a curve and I'm gonna bridge over the gap with masking tape. Now these are just really cute and simple little mitten hands. We'll use some hot glue on those glue tabs and stick the arms onto the side of my sculpture. I'll use hot glue to stick the eyes on too. And the two little teeth are gonna go just about here. Now I need to stick on the antlers. I'm gonna use my craft knife to cut off the base so I have a nice flat spot for some hot glue. And these will get stuck on just like this, and I'm holding these in place for a few minutes until that glue really cools. I also cut the base off each ear and attach those right behind the antlers. I used some strips of cardboard to reinforce that joint and make sure those ears are really well attached. Alright, so now we're ready for our final finishing layer of paper mache. I'm going to put a layer over each arm, and then all I really need to do is work on covering up any glue and tape from the joints. I'm not really worried about building up my sculpture's strength with this layer. I'm just focusing on smoothing out and covering up the joints, so I don't really even have to go over the whole project at this point, just the areas that need it. With that done, his face is not really looking too good, so let's fix that. We're gonna use some paper towel to make eyelids. I've torn some short strips and we'll coat those front and back with my paste. You'll notice the paper towel soaks up a lot more glue than the paper mache paper. Now I'm taking a skinny strip of paper towel and just barely moistening it with the paste, and I'll twist that into a long skinny snake and place it down onto my pre-glued strip. We'll carefully fold the strip over so that the little snake is tucked right into the edge of that fold. Now I can pick this up and wrap it around the bottom of my sculpture's eyeball to make his lower eyelid. We'll turn that to size and smooth the rough edge of the paper towel into the paper mache underneath. I'll repeat the same process for the other under eye, and then I'll make 2 more paper towel sandwich rolls for the upper eyelids. This is a good time to play around with the expression of your creature. Changing the shape of the eyelids or how much of each eyeball the lids are covering can really change your creature's expression. Once I've got the eyelids how I like them, I like to go in and cover the edge of the paper towel with some more strips of brown paper. The lips are pretty much exactly the same as the eyelids, just bigger. So we're starting with a larger bit of paper towel and really saturating that with glue, making a twist with another piece of paper towel, and catching that in the fold. Now I can peel this off of my mat and place it onto my sculpture. I used way too much paper towel for the upper lip, so I've got to rip some off. That's okay. I'll just make sure the free edge of that lip tucks under the eyelids and blend everything in the best I can. The bottom lip is done exactly the same way, and then I blend in the edges with some brown paper again. I wanted this jackalope smile to be a little bit crazy, so I made some comma shapes with paper towels and put them on the corners of his smile. Now we just gotta let this thing dry one more time before slapping on some paint. I'm going in with a homemade primer in pink. It's just some acrylic paint I've mixed with gesso, and then I've added some cornstarch as a thickener and some glue to make it flexible. You can find the recipe for this in my how to dry brush video. I will put the link in the description below. I add a second coat of primer, and I've just made that a bit darker than the first. I'm not sure why, but this jackalope was screaming to be yellow to me. If you've watched any of my videos before, you know that I love the dry brush paint technique. As I mentioned earlier, I do have a video that deep dives into this paint technique, and that link is still in the description. So this guy wants to be yellow, and of course that is the hardest color to dry brush, but I do have a bit of a cheat code. This yellow paint is actually mixed half and half with gesso, which will help it be more opaque. That said, I still have to build up the yellow paint a little more than usual by doing 2 coats. I've mixed up this lighter yellow, and I'm going to dry brush this all over to bring out the texture of my sculpture. Here it is after the lighter yellow. You can see the paint looks really saturated and luminous. For the antlers, I'm going in with this dark teal color. I love the look of that bright pink base coat peeking through the teal. Now I'm going in with this slightly lighter teal. This has dried a bit darker than I expected, so I mixed up this even lighter teal, and I'm giving the antlers just a whisper of a dry brush all over. With the large areas blocked in, I'm taking some black acrylic and painting the inside of the mouth. And now I'm taking the pink base coat to touch up the eyes and teeth. When the touch-ups are dry, I start working up layers of dry brushed white. One of the reasons I love the dry brush technique on sculptures is you don't have to worry about painting a hard edge between the eyeballs and the eyelids. A soft pink edge will show between the color transitions, and this is so much easier than trying to paint a sharp edge in these tight areas. Here's a great tip for painting eyes: sketch out the irises with white paint. You can usually see your brush strokes enough to plan everything out, and if you mess up, you don't have to paint over it. Now that the white is dry, I can just follow my white sketch with black. And then I can add some accents and highlights. I feel like this paint job could still use a little extra oomph, so I've ripped up this little makeup sponge and I'm going to dab some lime green on the base of each antler, as well as his eyelids and cheeks. And I also added a smattering of purple freckles. The final touch after letting him dry for a few hours is to go in with any glossy clear coat and add some shine to the eyes and mouth.
Here's my finished jackalope sculpture made from a blob. If you can make a blob, you can do it too. You can make this basic shape and you can add to it to make the project as simple or as complicated as you'd like. And don't be afraid to experiment and make a different sized blob. I made this little goblin guy with a tiny blob. Instead of using a paper bag, I just hot glued some paper around the edge of a corrugated cardboard circle. I hope you're inspired to take some inspiration from Squishmallow and make your own sculpture from a blob. If you have any questions about making your own blob project, leave them in the comments. I reply to almost every comment I get here on my channel, and I'm always happy to help out my subscribers. So make sure you're subscribed to my channel if you're interested in making more kick-ass art on a cheap-ass budget. I'm posting here as often as I can. My personal life was a little bit nuts over the past couple of months, but I've got a really cool new project on the go, and I'm excited to share them with you. Follow me on the socials, go make something out of a blob, and I'll see you on the next one.